Well, Dana Deschaak, congratulations on an outstanding state track meet. I placed fourth in the high jump, jumping 5 foot 3 inches. You're now fifth in all time in the Sturgis record book. Talk a little bit about the state meet and your high jump experience.
Well, it's always nerve-wracking going into a big competition. I was very nervous that day. I had a rough start at the beginning, but I'm very happy with my performance. I was able to match my PR that day. I was really hoping to make my 5.5 jump, which I needed 5.6 to break the school record, but it'll be definitely my goal for next year.
Talk a bit about the other events you do participate in throughout the whole year.
I also participate in pole vault. Pole vault is something that I recently picked up as a sophomore. It's definitely something I'm still growing at and working towards qualifying for state next year.
Congratulations, outstanding state track meet. Pretty proud of you.
Thank you.
Well, Kaylie, congratulations on an outstanding state track meet. Sixth in the 100-meter dash, running a 12.14, second all time in the Sturgis record book. What an outstanding accomplishment. And also competing in the long jump at state. And if I remember, you're an eighth grader. Talk a little bit about the state track meet.
As an eighth grader, obviously I was really scared because I had to go against like seniors, sophomores, up. Um, but I went there last year, so obviously I got most of the nerves out last year. So this year was a little bit easier, but still going against these girls that run like almost in the 11s was really scary. So yeah.
Talk about the final race in the finals. You ended up in sixth place. Again, tough competition, but it was an awful tight race.
Yes, so I was going against the top 8, so obviously I was a little bit more scared than the prelims, but I felt like I was just a little too relaxed and I should have like warmed up more before my race, but during the race I got out first from my blocks, so that was good. And then it's just the top speed that they beat me on since they got more experience and endurance. Yeah.
Kaylie, talk a little bit about long jump throughout the season. You qualified for the state. I had a tough go there, but talk about throughout the season. How was your long jump?
My long jump was really good this season. On my first track meet, I didn't know how to do long jump and I got 17.8. I jumped 17.8. And then in my future track meets, it was kind of like up and downs because I just didn't have the right strategy. But towards the end of the year, I got into the 18s and my PR was 18.3. But at state, I didn't do so well just because of all the nerves, and it was my first time doing long jump at state. So obviously I'm going to try more next year to be like less stressed out, and yeah.
Very good, Kaylie. Well, congratulations on a fantastic state meet. We're looking forward to seeing you for the next 4 years here in Sturgis.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations, Blake Proefrock, on outstanding track season this year in 2026. Unbelievable, 7 new school records, 32 entries in the top 10 athlete list for Sturgis Brown. 3 freshmen picked up records and 1 state all-time record in the top 10. Just outstanding. Blake, talk a little bit about looking back over the season. What stands out most about this year's boys and girls track team?
Well, I just think the dedication, really that they've had. There were a lot of boys, seniors, not, just a few girls, but still, like, we have juniors and seniors, a couple juniors obviously on the podium on the girls' side. So just the fact that the discipline, and the dedication that these kids have had, over the last 4 years, a few more than that, especially on the girls' side, has just been tremendous, and it kind of culminated into those things. I mean, setting 7 school records in 1 year is pretty tremendous, and those were all on the boys' side. There's nothing to take anything from the girls, but like that kind of core group just was really tremendous and have been for the last couple of years. But they took it one step further with the outcomes that we had.
Sure. Looking back on the overall season, what accomplishments are you really most proud of as a Sturgis track coach?
I just, think that for one, this year we started the year with the amount of kids that we had out, the amount of kids that we, took to state, the way we competed at conference, as a team aspect, the way that the team supported each other at the state meet, I felt was a little bit different. They're just kind of more engaged for everybody, and that's what you like to see in a sport that sometimes can be pretty individualized, at times. But the team aspect for both boys and girls, and but that's what you get when the dedication's there and they've been around a long time, and and they've done the things that they've done.
And you've touched on this a little bit, but the boys team set 7 new school records. What does that really say about those individuals, about their talent and work ethic?
Yeah, well, it's second to none. I mean, it really is. I mean, that isn't just 3 of them or 4 of them or whatnot. That was 10 of them. That had been part of those things, and in making those steps as we went. It was like, okay, these couple boys are in this relay, and then we throw in somebody else and get a little faster, and try somebody else, get a little faster. Somebody was dinged up, and we could replace them, and it still got faster as we progressed throughout the season, and then. The combination across the board. I mean, it was, Quinn Brook in the 2 mile, and Taylor Kalunga and what he was able to do, in the 800 and those distance races for our medley, and which, you're referring to one being on the top 10 all-time list in the state of South Dakota. That was, he was part of that. Like, it's pretty tremendous. And so, yeah, it took a lot of kids. It took a lot of them throughout, not just this year or last year, but the previous year. And as they develop, they compete, and that competition breeds success, and success breeds more success, and that's what you saw on both sides, but especially the boys.
Talk a little bit about the boys, the relays that we ran all year. Was a lot of times it was Burton, Venjon, Legner, and sometimes Kalunga, finishing in the top 4th, or finishing 4th at 3:33:53. How special was that?
Yeah, it was awesome. We got to state, and we ran that like 3:30 time, and it was tremendous. I finished. That's what's crazy about that is we ended up 4th. Not even 2 seconds out of first. Might have been one of the races of the entire meet just to watch play out, but. I think, are 10th all time in the state of South Dakota, right there, and the other 3 teams are all on that list as well. I mean, it's pretty tremendous when the 4 of the medaling teams are all timers, and we kind of saw that a little bit the year before on the way we ran that 4x8, and whatnot too. That's just the state of South Dakota right now, and the way track and field is. But those boys they've been the mainstays. EJ Brannon there, Sully Jost in there, Cole Litzen in there, right? Zoll's been in there. We've had a bunch of different guys that have been part of those things to kind of pull those things along, and it's been tremendous, and they've kind of helped bring kind of this younger crew along that we have, and that's going to be fun to see.
Seth Burton ran a 49.45 in the 400-meter prelims and ended up placing 8th overall in the finals, made the podium. What do you have to say about Seth's impact on the team?
Seth is kind of a tough one for me to talk about. He's, he had tremendous adversity this year, throughout the year. And he's a kid that just got better. Definitely lead by example kid. Definitely, team guy. That's why when we got to the end of the year, we were kind of pressing on stuff to get, certain things in and to get things qualified, and doing some things for them individually, because they all wanted to run together. They all wanted, to run on these relays. They all wanted some of these things. And it was time for him and Jude and those guys to run some individual things, and because they're more than deserving to at state. But Seth tremendous. All those guys are. But he was, again, team first guy, always asked what we could do, and he always I think the last week we were bouncing things back and forth. How do we want to do this? How do we want to approach this? Do we want to go for this medley race? Do we want to go for the 4x2? Like, you can run 49 seconds, 400, how we want to do this. And he was just like, whatever you guys think, coach. He's like, that's what we'll do. And right there, that statement is who he is. He's an awesome kid, and had a tremendous year and deservingly so.
Moving on to the girls. The girls had about 12 athletes move on to the school's all-time top 10 list. What does that indicate about the future of the girls program?
Yeah, it's like, kind of said, we didn't have very many seniors. We're really young, and there's a lot of potential in a lot of these young kids. And a lot of them made the trip. A lot of them are part of relays. I mean, obviously Kaylie Theberge, she's tremendous, in the sprints, the 100 and the 200, the long jump. I mean, she's a girl that I think she's 5th all-time in the 200, 2nd all-time in the 100, 2nd all-time in the long jump, in Sturgis already. And it's really going to be tremendous, the thing that she shows. But we got a lot of young kids. JoJo, she was one of the freshman record in the long jump, and kind of she reset that, and we get there's a lot there. There's a ton there. We're looking forward to it. A lot of our best things were run this year were all freshmen. I mean, they were underclassmen, and part of it is because we had some of the individuals we had, were older kids. Murray, in the throws, and Danica, high jumping and stuff like that. So, but minus some of those kids, we're really young, and I think we got a lot of great leadership for them. So,
Danica Deschaak placed 4th in the high jump with a jump of 5 foot 3 inches and now ranks 5th all-time in Sturgis history. What has made her success?
Well, her tenacity. She's in maturation. I'm going to throw that in there. And, high jump is tough. Some of those individual events are tough. Not that all events aren't, but man, that's one of those things where you can really get into your own head when you're doing it. If things aren't going well, or, it's raining like it was, and windy like it was, and kind of push you in the bar, and, throughout the season. But man, she just steadily, improved throughout the year. And I think just the maturation and the tenacity and discipline of what she was doing, what she wanted to get accomplished, how she approached everything pre-meet, at the meet, pre-jump. I think that was the key, or those things were the key. And, my goodness, she had 5.5. Like, she had that thing cleared and just caught it with her heel. But she's got a few more inches to go before she's done here.
Yep, very good. Muriel Hagan earned a state medal in the shot put with a personal best throw ever of 37 feet 4 inches. What do you talk about her improvements throughout the year?
Yeah, that's one that was a little bit of a surprise, just to a degree. We knew it was in there. We saw her, continuing to improve. And the thing about Muriel is her attitude. She is always so positive, and that's something else that kids can learn from, because even when things might be like kind of plateauing or so on and so forth, you got a good attitude and you keep working at it, and which that's what she did. Man, she peaked at the right time and just started coming off of her hand really well, shot, and the disc, because it wasn't until right at the end of the season did she qualify in the disc, but she managed to get there in the shot, and right there in that first flight, and managed to pop one of those off and was able to hold on, and that just goes to show there were a lot of kids seated ahead of her, and they didn't have that kind of mental discipline, and sometimes that it takes to take when the conditions aren't perfect and things aren't right, and you get on that stage, and she did, and that was awesome to see, and she's a great kid.
Blake, looking ahead, what lessons will the athletes take away from this season as they prepare for next year?
Well, I think the last few years really have been tremendous for these younger kids to see, kind of what the work that the older kids put in. There's a few individuals that we're really, really going to miss. It's like I was talking to Quinn and Taylor the other day, because they're out for cross country too. And man, Quinn's been around a long time, and he's been part of a lot of historical things in Sturgis. I mean, he holds these records. He's on the all-time list there. He's been part of obviously our state runner-up cross-country team and our fourth place team and all these conference championships. And a lot of these kids have the track kids, cross-country kids that are also out for track. And I just think that, this younger group was able to see what it took, and all the attributes that I mentioned, like that tenacity and stick-to-itiveness, throughout the year. Like, it's not just track season when it's track season, because, if you base it on South Dakota's weather, it's only track season a couple weeks, or it feels that way. And so, the discipline that it takes in the spring and, the work ethic that it takes year round, I think they were able to see it. They were able to see it come to fruition for multiple years in a row. And I think these young kids are ready to go.
Moving back to Seth Burton for just a minute, I was looking at the all-time leaders in the track history for Sturgis, and he's now the leaderboard on the 200 meters. That was an 18-year-old record set by Dane McNinney that he finally got, and he beat it by 0.16, so pretty good time. But also, Seth in the 40 run a 49.45 in the 400 and has now broke the 10-year-old record. So, I mean, there's been a lot of years in there where we're looking for that sprinter, and he also on the 100-meter is 6th all-time. So he's got on the 100, the 200, and the 400 all in the record book.
Yeah, again, just tremendous kid, and it goes back to just puts in the work, just does what we ask, does more. It's always what more can he do, and that shows. But I want to say, he wouldn't have been as good without the competition that he had. You look at that 200 list, Jude Legner's on our top 10 list. He's number 5, and Mason Venjohn's on our 200 list. He's number 6, in the 200, and so those guys. Not only is Seth in those records, he has the 200, the 400, but he's on the 4x1, the 4x2, the 4x4, the medley, which those other guys are too, and so he wouldn't have had that without the group and the group being pushed and having that competition and practice, and so it's a testament to the whole team, really. So yeah, but again, it's a great kid, awesome, and it was a pleasure to have him, because you don't get those very often.
Final reflection, when people look back on the 2026 Sturgis track and field season, what do you hope you remember most about this team?
Honestly, kind of all the personalities that they had, and they were all needed. They all needed each other, and as they matured, they all recognized that, from sprinter to distance to thrower to, whatever else. I mean, we didn't even really mention, like Levi Brandt, he's our, javelin record holder, and Miles Voigt, another senior that made it there. Like all these individuals, and just their personalities, and the Mason, Venjohn that it took to always keep things light but super positive, and Jude was always serious, and Seth was always ready to work, and all these guys, and Levi and the way he approached things, these guys were tremendous, they really were. Lucy Hamer, she's been around a long time, and she came up in 7th grade. She's been here 6 years, and she battled through an injury this entire season. She ran, partially torn ACL all season. And so that kind of shows you, the discipline and the determination, and just that all these older kids had. And there's younger ones, obviously, that were medalists and things of that nature too. But when you talk about 2026 and you start seeing that number on the record boards, or when you're walking through the hall and you see 2026, you're going to see that a lot. And that's what I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember those kids, and how excited they were the entire year for, track season, what it's going to be like, what are we going to do, what are we going to accomplish, how are we going to do it, and then just their camaraderie. And like I said, earlier on, boys, girls, supporting each other at the state track meet, and all the things, they were front and center to do so, and that brings a coach a lot of joy, and the program a lot of joy. And also couldn't be done without a great coaching staff. We have great coaching staff. Koletsky and Anderson, Kamak and Hilton, Allie Larson, was out there. We had Coach Brandt that was, out there. been volunteering. And then, of course, Scott Peterson. We talked about him earlier this year. This was kind of his last year. He's going to retire after this, and whatnot. So like it took tremendous coaching staff and all the help and the administration, and it takes you guys. It really does, because the kids are really appreciative. Of all of you, Black Hills TV. Tim, Gary and Terry, anybody that's talking about them, the Pioneer, like anybody that, they love that, and they keep working for that. They keep working for themselves. They keep working for each other. And that's this team, that's this group. And it couldn't be done without all of it.
Well, congratulations, Blake, on just an outstanding year. It probably is going to be a while till we see that many track records set again, but hopefully in 2027 we'll do it again. We look forward to seeing you on the cross-country course. That's only 100 days away.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're already making some off-season plans. So that's what we got. That's what we look forward to, and on to the next. Thank you very much.